This is the Washington Times front page for Thursday, June 22nd, 2023. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. In his first public testimony since he began his investigation into how FBI agents pursued Trump-Russia collusion allegations, Special Counsel John Durham said Bureau brass withheld critical information from agents working the probe. Jeff Murdoch reports Durham told lawmakers that the FBI agents who worked on the probe became emotional and apologized when confronted with intelligence that the investigation may have been part of a plan by Hillary Clinton's campaign to distract from her use of a private email server in 2016. Durham told House Judiciary Committee members that FBI officials were too willing to accept and use politically funded and uncorroborated opposition research to launch the probe in 2016. Scams targeting Pell Grants and federal student loans have surged as lawmakers pour more money into higher education to shore up flagging enrollment. Sean Salai reports phony student aid applications using names taken by identity theft netted about $100 million over the past 12 months. That's according to the LexisNexis Risk Solutions Government Group, which works with federal agencies to combat the schemes. During the pandemic, that total was $50 million a year, and even lower, less than $10 million a year, before 2020. The U.S. military is in a bitter fight to attract and retain recruits. Guard and active duty service leaders told our Ben Wolfgang that they face one of the worst recruiting environments in the 50-year history of the nation using an all-volunteer force. The Army, Navy, and Air Force offer enlistment bonuses to entice recruits. Incentives that once made military service attractive are now matched by private sector employers equally desperate to fill job vacancies. With the exception of the Marine Corps, each service expects to fall short of its recruiting goals in fiscal year 2023. The Army expects to be about 10,000 soldiers short of its goal, service officials told Congress in April. The Air Force will miss its mark by about 10,000, and the Navy is also on track to be about 6,000 soldiers short. The prospect of probation for a felony gun possession charge is raising more charges of favoritism and a double standard of justice in the case of Hunter Biden. Dave Boyer reports lawyers say it's exceedingly rare for defendants to avoid prison time for federal firearms violations. Hip-hop artist Kodak Black, charged with the same crime, was sentenced to 3 years in prison. His attorney, Bradford Cohen, criticized Hunter's plea deal, though Black did have prior convictions when he falsified federal forms to buy 4 firearms in 2019. Andrew Weissman, a former federal prosecutor on special counsel Robert Mueller's team, said Republicans criticizing the plea deal are hypocritical in choosing now to be in favor of enforcing gun laws. And finally, Edwin Peters is searching for answers to why the Biden administration fired him as an immigration judge. Stephen Dinan reports Peters said he received satisfactory reviews and his decisions were roughly 50-50 in terms of approvals and rejections. He said his supervisors told him his performance wasn't up to par. He questioned the reasoning given his performance reviews. Peters was hired under the Trump administration, but wasn't installed until President Biden took office. He had nearly 2 years on the job, after which his probationary period would have ended and been converted into a permanent position. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. To search Washington Times in any major podcast app. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.